Howdy friends! Well, I've got a really exciting video here for you today because for the first time I'm finally getting a balanced druid DPS PvP guide and everything of that kind. I don't really know balanced druids, but I found a guy who really does. Right now I've got Skinwalker here with us. How you doing, Skinwalker?
Oh, I'm good. I'm real nice. How about you?
I'm doing great too. So glad to have you here on this in this video because I really need you because so I've kind of like I love balanced druids. I've heard a lot about them, but I don't know much about them. I'm almost too afraid. I'm kind of too chicken to try out a balanced druid because they're not the most optimal class. Anyway, we can go in a little more into that. But I really wanted to have you here on the stream because from what I understand is you really know your balanced druid. Is that true?
Yeah, I'd like to think so at least. I've been playing Balanced Druid for a couple of years now. It's been a really fun ride. And now to finally be able to play a Balanced Druid at the Classics is just really awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, then let me go ahead and ask you then. So what is your experience with a balanced druid and how long have you been involved with them, you say?
Well, I started playing a Balanced Druid just for fun, really, for laughs and giggles. You probably all heard about the Nostalgia's private server, and in the end, when we knew that the clock was kind of ticking out, I had a lot of spare gold, and I started buying gold for buying gear from different guilds, just messing around with spellcaster gear.
Now, was this before the shutdown was announced?
Yeah.
Towards the end of it, though? Okay. So you didn't know the end was coming?
No, but we kind of like figured. We'd been playing private servers for years, and I was guessing probably it was coming close to the end of the ride. And I didn't really raid or anything. I've been trying out cats, and yeah, it wasn't that much fun. So I decided just to try it out for PvP and for lulz with my brother. And we were really surprised of how much damage you could actually put out, and how fun it was.
Okay. That's awesome.
Yeah, and later, then I kind of decided if there was going to come another huge private server project, which probably would come, and we really figured out it was going to come because after Nostalgia's crashed, it came like an immense amount of hype. Then I decided I was going to go all in for a balanced druid.
You committed.
That was the CM server, which turned into Light's Hope. There was a lot of drama there, and
Yeah, I was in there through all of that.
yeah. And then I started playing with some American dudes in a guild called Make Horde Great Again. This was during the election, I think, so yeah.
Yeah, I've seen that running around. Make Horde great again, make Azeroth great again.
Yeah.
Always good for the memes.
Yeah. And we were just, I was just playing with them, and they had a kind of like a different gearing system there. So in the beginning, like the tier 1 pieces had arcane damage, and it was really smooth. And I was popping like flasks, and we were a really casual guild. So I think both them and I was pretty surprised at how much damage I actually could put out, So then I just figured that if Classic was ever going to come, I was going to position myself where I could do like the whole 9 yards with a druid. The guild master of a guild, get like things like power infusion. I wanted it all because when we were playing in Make Horde Great Again, we were really casual. And as a balanced druid, the shorter a fight is, the more crazier numbers you can get from the RNG, that side of the thing.
Okay. Well, that's great.
Yeah.
So you just committed to the druid and it started working for you. Like you started off kind of as a joke and then it went well.
Yeah. It's just like like the road was made as I was walking it, sort of, skin walking it, so to speak.
No, that's really cool. I know druids. I mean, it's not been an easy road for us because so like originally when Classic was announced, most people regarded druid tanks as a meme. They kind of thought, oh, druids can only heal, and even that they don't do well. And like it's now kind of established, okay, druids can tank, but they can't DPS. And I'm just like, well, I'm kind of hoping we can change that one as well because before we only healed. And then we could tank and heal. So next we just need a DPS. But obviously druids are nice because they've got two completely different ways to do DPS. You got feral and balance, but balance is always the one that I think's been the uphill battle because it seems that you have to really bring it in order to make it even viable. Has that been your experience?
You're really like a salmon swimming upstreams. It takes a lot of preparation. You really need to want to do it to be able to do it. I now I had learned, from my previous experience raiding on Elysium or Light's Hope or whatever, And you need tons of runes, especially if you're in one of those guilds that are like mid-tier and they don't really care about world buff, they don't care about flasking and using consumables. Because in a long fight, I think pretty much like the theory craft behind this is like 2.5, 3 minute mark. Then you're gonna start to struggle as a Moonkin.
Yeah, once you start running out of mana.
Yeah. But if you pop runes and major mana potions, it's not even an issue. It's not even on the table. I finish most fights with over half my mana pool.
Oh, nice.
And then even then, inner weight, which kind of like becomes redundant.
Okay, so do you get to use Innervate on yourself?
Oh yeah. I happen to be the guild master of my guild. I co-GM it with my brother, and
yeah.
So we kind of like set it up with warlocks in my group, 4 warlocks, because if you have the ones that will gain the most DPS from the Moonkin pre-crit aura buff will be warlocks, since they have that shadow damage buff when they crit. And I think that would in this kind of like phase 1 gear with a flask, it amounts to around, I think, like 80 to 100 DPS. So I kind of like set it up like that in this guild.
Well, I want to ask then, how far have you progressed as a balanced druid? Like, how far have you gotten?
Oh, well, we've been clearing MC and Onyxia, I think, like for 5 weeks. Since like the 3rd week, I think we cleared MC and Onyxia on the first time.
Okay, so that's currently right now. In the past, on servers we won't speak of, did you get any further? Since it sounds like you've gone the furthest you can go right now. But have you ever cleared anything further in the past?
Yeah, previously, like playing on these fun servers or whatever you want to call them. I played until Katoon on AQ40. I never actually killed Katoon because of like my life situation. Then I had to quit. So and I'm kind of glad now. Now I have kind of like the whole of Naxxramas left when it finally gets released in Classic.
Something to look forward to that you haven't done.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. So you've gone through AQ40 pretty much. Okay, I mean most people would consider that obviously very end game for Classic. I've heard the cap for most people is AQ20. That's when anything further than that, you can't really be casual to get through. So it sounds like you kind of got past the glass ceiling that's set up for some would say for druids. So that's pretty good. You got far.
Yeah. Well, I had like a kind of like mixed feelings, or like from that experience, because there are certain things with the balanced druid, There's a 16% spell hit cap, for casters in vanilla.
16%?
Yeah.
Oh man, so I know at least for melee for some classes it's like 9. I didn't know it was 16 for casters.
Yeah, but then again, and here's where it gets interesting, when CG is out, you have tons of gear from there. The rings, the gloves,
Zandalar Hero Charm.
Yeah, and if you could get like your hands on a Neltarian's tear from BBL, which will be out at the same time, if you get those good hit pieces, then you can start mixing in crit. And if a fight is lasting, for instance, like a minute, then you can start taking away hit and putting crit into the mix.
Oh, if the fights are short.
Yeah, if they're short, because basically it's just a lottery. You're rolling a dice. Like right now, I'm at 13% misses if you check my Warcraft logs. And that's just too much, It's like once every 5th raid, I'll get a really good fight.
Yeah.
But later, and which I kind of experienced as well in playing on these servers, is that if you put a lot of crit gear in there, you can get those really crazy numbers. And with the Druid, from the balanced talents, you got a thing called Nature's Grace. And that is, if you crit, it cuts half a second off the next cast.
Oh.
Yeah, the
so
more
more
you crit,
crits that...
Yeah.
So they're very dependent on crit.
Yeah. So you kind of want to have a gear, depending on the fight. If it's like a 10-minute killing like some of the end game bosses in Naxxramas, you probably want to be really close to the spell hit cap.
Mm-hmm.
But in places like MC and BVL, where fights are really short, and a lot of the AQ fights as well are really short, you can kind of like cut 6, 7, 8% hit, depending on kind of like what's your play style or what you're going for, and mix in this crit gear, and you can be pulling really huge numbers. And this
Mm-hmm.
is the kind of idea I have behind this, you know, trying to mix. And now we got this Warcraft logs going. We can see and kind of like look at every little aspect and detail, like
Yeah.
theorycraft to a whole new level. You know, it's so exciting.
Yeah. Well, hey, I gotta ask then, did you play during Classic at all? Like the actual
Yeah, yeah.
Classic, any of that?
I actually played since the closed beta.
Oh wow,
Uh,
so you go way
yeah,
back. I
I played
started
a hunter.
I started the weekend Classic came out. I'm sorry, no, the weekend before Burning Crusade came out. So I was right at the end. So I got some of Classic, but most very, very little. And I'd played a little bit before, but I had my own account at that time. But so okay, then you've played quite a bit of it. Is Druid's often regarded as a meme spec? Why do you think that's accurate or not accurate?
Well, you know, I'm kind of like could be at least biased towards the Moonkin, since I play one or any of these sort of like hybrid classes. And but if you look at the data, it's just like
Mm-hmm.
a few percentiles that are the difference between these classes. Moonkin is scoring lower than a Warlock, scoring lower than a Mage, of course, but it's not so much that you can't have them in the mix, you know, or play with them and see what it's all about, you know, like try to see how far you can push a Moonkin.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this whole meme thing comes from all the way back in Classic, you know, and it's been perpetuated from the private servers. That if you look at videos, old videos of balanced druids doing PvP or PvE from vanilla,
Mm-hmm.
you can see that these guys were running in tier 1 gear. They had blue pieces with strength on them. They were running it around in wild heart gear. It was just probably for the most part healers that were pretty bored and just doing stuff, and they were shooting moonfires left and right, some rat, some starfire,
Mm-hmm.
and they didn't know what they were doing. And if you look at sites that had the available data of how to perform better in raids or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
like elitist jerks, they didn't even look into the balance druids. So probably they found out, okay, you got lower DPS than mages or warlocks, so yeah, off the table with the Moonkin.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the private server community, this whole idea about the Moonkin going out of mana, like I talked about earlier, it's around 2.5, 3 minutes before you run out of mana, so it's
Mm-hmm.
not really true. But then again, you have board healers going into like an MC pug with a mixed match of gear. They don't know what stats they're supposed to be stacking, that they need runes maybe, that they need major mana potions.
Mm-hmm.
And
You
then
gotta
it
bring
just
your
kinda
pots
like,
and your runes.
yeah. And it's just something that comes from that, you know, and then you have all these memes coming from different subreddits and different forums, you know, kind of like just perpetuating this idea that the Moonkin is an Oomkin or does terrible DPS, which is probably true from most people's experience.
Yeah.
But
Well,
yeah,
something I had heard, and this is something I'm echoing from Taladrill. I had an interview with him before through the same, just like this, and he had said that so Druids started off pretty bad up until I think it was 1.8. You had might have mentioned 1.8. They had like all the
Yeah.
other classes, they had to be revamped, and they
Yeah.
kind of corrected them. And the Druid suffered the most because their talent system, I mean, was their spec and everything about them was way off. I think there was a higher hybrid tax on them than anyone else. Like for example, bear form, the leather or the armor upgrade was not even equivalent to mail in your dire bear form. So there was no such thing as really a bear tank.
Yeah.
And then the balance tree, there was no Moonkin up until 1.8. And I had heard
Yeah.
that the problem was once they were viable, once 1.8 hit, they'd already been cemented as a meme spec and bad, and they never had time to recover before Burning Crusade came out because people they were pretty bad, so people weren't leveling them or playing them as trying to make them work. And then once it started the pre-Burning Crusade patch had happened, so they never had time to recover. So now that we have time and data, and it's 2019, we have 2019 tools, then we're starting to realize that actually these do work out. You just have to bring a little bit more. And it's true, you're not going to DPS as much as a warlock who's putting the same work in. You're going to have to put more work to get less damage. But like you said, I've heard it's a little bit. So why not have fun with it? And another thing is a warlock can't emergency heal. That's another thing. Is a warlock can't. We can't go, oh crap, the healer died or something went wrong. Warlock, you start healing. But a balanced druid can shift out of Moonkin form. They've got a lot of mana. They can start healing. So you bring a utility that warlock does not have.
But I think that exact aspect is much more relevant in a 5-man, you know, or than in a raiding scenario, you know, especially now, since most people are just coasting through most of the contents. There are tactics out there and everywhere on the internet, and most people just know what to do. Mm-hmm. But for me as a raid leader, I sometimes jump out and do a quick battle rest on a tank or someone important in a battle.
That's a big one too.
Even if something goes to ship, but I don't think you have to play that way anymore as a Moonkin. I don't think you have to use your inner weight on anyone else as a Moonkin. If they put the same things on the table as you do with consumables and potions and runes and whatever, it's just not needed anymore. And also another thing, going back to what you said about 1.8, I think like the last talent before 1.8 in the Moonkin tree was Hurricane, you know, that was the...
Mm-hmm. That's their area of effect.
Yeah, the horrible AoE that we have.
With a 1 minute cooldown. It's a powerful AoE, but with a 1 minute cooldown and a huge mana cost.
Yeah, they cost like half your mana, you know. Mm-hmm. And also it's something funny, you know, because you should think like by 1.8 they've done a lot of rework on a lot of the classes, that they kind of like had this whole PvE aspect and how classes were working out and what different talent changes did. Mm-hmm. That this aspect would be put into the Moonkin form and give them like a becoming like a really good caster, where you didn't have to put effort and do a lot of research to do decent numbers. But they didn't, you know, like if you look at the mage, you know, they have resistance reduced talents, they have
it's all built in
talents, and everything, and the Moonkin didn't get any of this. And just recently I came over this Twitch by a guy called Kevin Jordan, who used to be one of the developers. Mm-hmm. And he said that like for them, when they were doing these reamps and when they were working classes in Classic, they didn't really think about the whole PvE and PvP aspect down to theory craft and simulations and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. They were more looking at the lore aspect and what could contribute to the whole RP lore kind of thing, you know. So it was like a different mindset of these people. Yeah.
Which is fun, but it's no fun when you can't get in a raid.
Yeah. It's kind of like that.
Okay. Well, cool. Well then I you know, you've done raiding. I'm curious then, what would you say a balanced druid, what value do they bring to the raid? Obviously they've got the Moonkin Aurora and stuff, but what value is that Moonkin have? And then also after that, I kind of want to know about the DPS rotation. Like what do you do in the raid? But first I want to know like what value does a Moonkin bring? Again, why not just bring a warlock?
Well, if you're looking at it at the min-maxing perspective, then you can just forget about the Moonkin.
Okay.
If you want to be pushing like extreme numbers and speed, you got people from Apes and AIM and Progress and Return, you know, on Warcraft logs, mm-hmm. You don't want to have a Moonkin there.
Yeah.
But if you're playing the game as a normal person looking to maybe form some friendships, having fun online with friends and people that you meet, you can bring a Moonkin. He'll probably be doing as much damage, or maybe even more than a lot of your casters, because in a setting with people, you know, you'll never have a guy that has 100% uptime or is as effective as a machine, you know. People are different, you know. Yeah. People freak out. Things happen in a fight.
Sometimes someone gets a phone call, you know, during the battle. Someone's at the door. Yeah. There's so many contributor like factors.
Yeah, and you can be able to be like a top 10, you know, in a fight. And also now for every single class, we don't have enough hits, you know, especially that's more relevant for casters. We don't have enough hit gear, so it'll be an RNG thing, you know. And also it's like I think that at least for in my behalf, you know, I think it's fun to have a Moonkin, and they like to see what kind of numbers you can pull. It's funny, you know, even with I'm kind of evening the odds as well in my guild, giving my Moonkin power infusion from priests, you know, because
Yeah, you get that? Wait, so if
yeah,
I
yeah,
understand right,
yeah,
that increases the
yeah,
damage done by spells by like 30%?
yeah, I think it's 20%, you know.
20%? I mean, that's still that's
Yeah,
pretty
yeah,
good.
and also that's like a typical thing, you know. As a Moonkin, you'll never be getting that power infusion,
Not
so
much
you
for the
look
guild
even
master.
worse on the meters. Yeah, yeah, because all the other casters got something, and you don't get that. But
Yeah.
not this time, you know. This Moonkin is getting it all. And another thing I think is very interesting here is that I'm going to use the Moonfire as debuff slot for the Moonfire, which it has very little theory craft. But then again, Moonfire with the talent point giving 10% crit, you'll be, even in this scare with fully world buffed, you're around 40% crit.
Okay.
Cutting the cast, giving a 250 damage dot tick, you know.
Mm-hmm. That's a ton of crit.
Think,
so
yeah.
You're saying you include Moonfire in your rotation. Well, what is the core balanced Druid rotation? I've heard, isn't it just Starfire over and over and over? That's their big slow cast, right?
Yeah, you do max range.
So why don't you use Wrath at all?
Well, you burn out your mana way too quick.
Okay, so it's not mana efficient.
Yeah, and also it's the aspect of the Curse of Shadows from the Warlock, which gives you a 10% damage increase, and also lowers your resistance.
Oh, does that work for that? I thought it was only Fire, Frost, and Shadow.
Yeah.
But it also...
But getting back to your question, I think...
Oh, okay, wait, can you hear me okay?
Huh?
Oh, sorry, I didn't know if you could hear me okay. I was just... But the Warlock debuff, sorry, I thought it was Fire, Frost, and Shadow. Is that... It also works for Arcane?
No, I think it's only Shadow and Arcane, like the Curse of Shadows, at least at this point in the game.
Okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and I think they have maybe another slot. You know, I only care about Curse of Shadows.
Yeah. But okay, see that's good to know. I didn't know that. So you benefit from having that Warlock in the raid.
Yeah. So you really want to have, if you're running a Moonkin, you want to have like 3 or 4 so that you get all curses.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully you'll get that kind of, the Warlock doing the Curse of Shadows. For instance, on like a Sulfuron fight, you want him to pop Curse of Shadows on all the ads real quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So you can Moonfire each of them. And Moonfire in my gear now with the Talisman trinket from MC, it's like 1k crit on each of them.
Oh my gosh.
Then you can start blasting Sulfuron, you know. So
an instant cast 1k crit with a dot. That's incredible.
Yeah, it's crazy. And some of my simulations now, I've been like at 700 DPS, 750, until I come crashing with the RNG and getting like 4 misses in a row.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So then your rotation right now is you're just gonna hit Starfire, and then put the Moonfire on, give them that dot, or maybe you'll start with Moonfire, let that dot tick, and then you're still gonna incorporate in just Starfire until the dot runs out.
Yeah, what I do now, because there's no one that's done any real theory craft on that kind of rotation with Moonfire. There's a guy called Kefton who's made some amazing sheets and done a lot of work towards like simulation of maximum damage, and we can pop some of these sheets that he's made where people can check out their characters. He's on the Druid classic Druid Discord.
Okay.
Done a lot of work, but he's not yet incorporated the Moonfire debuff in. So what I'm rolling at now is like Moonfire, hope for a crit so that you can cut half a second lost from the global cooldown of the Moonfire.
Oh, I see now.
And just Starfire until it ticks out, and then rinse, repeat, you know.
So if you could have a high enough crit where a large majority of those Moonfires would crit, you would make that time of the global cooldown up, and oh man, so now you're like, you got some possibilities. If you had enough hit and then got high enough crit, you could really make this Moonkin work.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just imagine. Yeah, you can just imagine.
Like my gears are turning right now. I'm like, okay, there's possibilities here.
Yeah. And just imagine this, you know, this scenario. Okay, you got those 4 snake friends of his. They get pulled together. Most guilds just AoE that back together.
Mm-hmm.
You pop your Talisman trinket and get 170 more spell damage. You got your flask, and you get PI from a priest.
Mm-hmm.
Each and every one of your Moonfires crits around 1,000, and the dot will tick for 250, and then you start slapping Sulfuron with 4k crits. You could just make that in your head. You popping like 700, 800, 900 DPS. Possible now the RNG gods are with you. You know, that's what
Yeah.
I'm going for now. Mm.
With the right RNG. Okay. I mean, I feel like
Yeah.
that every class could push that, but I, I'm so impressed that people are hearing, like, coming up with these ideas for Moonkins and really making them work.
Yeah. Yeah, it's real fun being part of it. You know?
Okay. Well,
But
then,
to answer your question, like in short, if you're a min-max guild, you can skip the Moonkin. If you're having fun,
yeah.
you can still be pretty hardcore. In our guild, we're clearing MC in just about above an hour, and we're not like hardcore. I don't see why you shouldn't bring a Moonkin, you know. And it's fun for those guys getting 3% extra crit. You know, we all like to see big numbers and big crits, I guess.
Yeah, they definitely have those big numbers. Well, then, so like, something my guild, kind of a theory my guild has had, is that they want to bring one of everything because there is gear that can drop. I don't know specifically the gear, but there's like leather gear that's for balanced druids. It does exist, and it's gonna go to waste unless you have that balanced druid. And there's a lot of items like that we want to have one of everything. Like, we want a shadow priest, we want an enhanced shaman, so that the gear can be evenly distributed, so things aren't kind of going to waste. And another thing is, what matters is that you're clearing mobs. So it's like, yes, there are guilds out there that are able to do the world speed runs, and more power to them if that's what they want to do. But for everyone else who is not doing a speed run, I feel like, what's the harm? You know, if you're not clearing it the same day it's released, well, maybe you take a few extra days, because as long as all content's being cleared, and from what you're telling me, it can definitely be cleared with a couple balanced druids in your group, then that's what matters.
Yeah, of course. Like, if you take like BIS pieces from a mage, maybe collectively you lose like 0.4 of the total damage done on a boss. You know, since the mage didn't get it. And for me, you know, it's just like nilly willy or whatever. It doesn't really matter. We cleared an hour and 10 minutes, an hour. It doesn't really matter. And also, it's true, kind of like as an argument as well. If you look at AQ, there's a lot of leather gear with spell power on. I think the first boss drops,
and that can't go to a warlock or a mage.
And I think Kazakh or Azuregas, or maybe it's the Nightmare Dragons, they drop some leather gear with spell damage. You know, weapon gear.
Well, then I want to ask them, what is the gear you want to target, because for a druid, because I had heard that, like, obviously you're doing arcane damage, so some of the pre-raid best in slot gear is some greens, they give bonus arcane damage.
Well,
so like,
right
what are you aiming for as a balanced druid?
Well, right now, if you're looking to gear a Moonkin, there's just one way to go. Or if you want to, like, maybe someone will put you in as a trial in a guild and you want to impress them. Being a hybrid, of course, bring a flask, bring every fucking consumable you can.
Yeah.
And in terms of gear, most of the hard pieces, you know, where other classes struggle, you know, with low drop rates, you can buy as a Moonkin. The only pieces you want that are blue is the Star of Mysteria, the neck with one hit. You'll want the ring, the Eye of Orgrimmar or Iron Forge, and a Maiden Circle. And you want the Bantuk Sash, the Browerwood Reed Trinket from UBRS, and the Crit Trinket from the Oni Prequest. The rest of the pieces you want with maximum proc Arcane Power or Arcane Damage gear. Like 21.
There's that engineering cloth headpiece that has an RNG chance.
You know, skip that. What you want is a Master's Hat with 40 arcane damage proc, and you pop a Librum or Arcanum of Focus and get 8 more damage on it.
Got it. Okay, so there's stuff out there for it. Well,
and that's a problem as well. Like, with this whole Moonkin thing, if you go to Google and you search for like things like balanced druid stat priority, balanced druid DPS, the first Icy Veins article, it's completely littered with blue gear that will actually lower your maximum damage potential.
Really?
Also,
wasn't aware.
Yeah, there's a lot of misconceptions out there. You know, you just want maximum plus damage gear, and you get your crit from DM buff, from Onyxia, and from the Sunflowers and Felwood. You know, that's what you're going for in phase 1.
Okay, cool. So get a gear. Okay. Well, then, what is a spec that you want to go for? In fact, I want to pull up right now If you're willing to go with me, I've got the talent tree pulled up right here. I'd like to see what you would recommend for a balanced druid spec. For just someone who was trying out a balanced druid, they wanted to go into a raid, what would you recommend? So give me 1 second. I'm going to pull this up.
Pull it up. Yeah, I got mine.
So it's blocking our faces, but I've got it right here. So how would you start out your balanced druid for raiding?
Well, we'll start out. We'll just pop 5 talent points immediately into Rat.
Okay.
We don't really need this for raiding, but we have to do it. Then we'll go 5 talents into Improved Moonfire.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah. And we'll pop Nature's Reach. 2 talent points there. And now we need 3 talent points. If you look at Improved Torrents, there will be a Resto Druid with Improved Torrents and the set bonus, so you don't really need that. You don't need Entangling Roots in an instance, so you can just pop it on Natural Shapeshifter. So if you need to pop Innervate on yourself,
okay,
it'll reduce the mana cost on your Moonkin form by 30%. After that comes the most important talent, the Improved Starfire. We'll pop.
Oh, I forgot about this. Starfire has a chance to stun the target.
Oh yeah.
So for clearing mobs, that'll help the tank take less damage. For obviously not bosses because you can't stun them, but for any adds, you could have a chance to stun them and help out the tank just take less damage.
It's really awesome in dungeons actually, and also
that too. Oh yeah, PvP, that'd be so much fun. Fire off a Starfire and get a stun, followed up with another Starfire. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, and if it crits, you know that guy's dead. And then after that, you want Moonglow, which reduces the mana cost of your Moonfire and Starfire, which comes in really handy.
Yeah.
As you'll be running with probably like 4k mana in an instance, That's why we need those runes, since we're going full Arcane Power Gear. And you'll want 5 points in Vengeance, which will double the damage of your Starfire.
The critical strike damage bonus of Starfire and Wrath. Okay, so yeah, a must.
Yeah, an absolute must. And also Nature's Grace, which comes in afterwards, is also just brilliant.
So that's the one you were telling me about. That's the one where you have a chance, when you get a crit, to reduce the cast time of your next spell by half a second. Yeah. So if you get that on a Moonfire,
that's the kind of talent.
That Moonfire, you don't lose the cast time from that you would from
You reduce the loss of cast time by half a second. I think a global cooldown is 1.5 seconds.
Oh, is it? I thought it was 1 second.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I think it's either 1.5 or
maybe 1.
So I think we'll cut that from that loss will disappear, or some of it, with Nature's Grace. And even on your next Starfire, if you crit, you'll get it even faster. And as Starfire is a 3.5 second spell until we spec into it. It means that we have 100% spell coefficiency. So mages and warlocks, they will probably get some place between 70 and 90% spell coefficiency. We actually get 100%.
Oh, really?
Spell damage. Yeah. And then after that, it's Moon Fury. This is I don't think that many people know this, but Moon Fury only gives you a flat damage increase. So it isn't, you don't get 10%. Say you have 500 arcane damage, you won't be getting 50 damage from it,
Oh yeah. It's a base. It doesn't include spell power and everything.
Yeah. And down into Moonkin.
Well, sorry, do you get 5 in Moon Fury though?
Yeah.
Okay,
I always pop 5 in it because it's an increase, and you don't really have any other talents, as we'll see later.
Okay.
You can use, or
then you get
we'll probably pop more in here later, because I'll show you now that we get into Restoration.
Okay.
Here is neither of this you'll probably need, but if it's
Here, give me 1 second. I'm going to get this so it can fit everything on the screen properly. Okay, so going over to
the resto part.
All right. So I imagine Improved Mark of the Wild.
Yeah, I usually pop that, because a lot of guilds are only running with 1 druid, and then you can help him out when there's buffs going around. But for your damage, neither of these really matter.
Yeah. Well, as long as someone's bringing Improved Mark of the Wild.
Yeah, it's exactly that. And then you can think about if you PvP as a Moonkin, then it's really more up to what your play style is. I think having 5 points and fur and getting that really important stun on the rogue that's almost killed you or whatever, pretty nice. I usually pop that. Nature's Focus is probably something some people will pop, but I know that if someone...
Yeah, this is the tier that I don't know what to do.
Yeah, you don't want to have anyone in melee range to get up slow heal, which is what we have. But in terms of the PvE aspect, you want reflection, and you'll pop 3 points into that.
Okay, 3 points in reflection.
Yeah, and after that, you know, if you look at talent points we can spend available to us in a PvE scenario, nothing really matters now, except for maybe in a 5-man. You can use Insect Swarm. Sometimes...
so you would not use this on a boss, even for that 2% reduced hit chance?
No.
No? Okay.
I wouldn't. It's too much of a DPS loss. And also, since this is not TBC, we can't even cast Insect Swarm in Moonkin form.
Oh my, I did not think about that.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Out. Yeah.
That's a restoration ability. That's so funny.
Yeah, and for some reason, you can cast Hurricane, which also kind of like is a nature spell.
Well, is it a restoration? I thought it was you can cast things in the balance tree. Or, sorry, the balance school.
Yeah, but,
well,
but
I guess it's not a school,
it's
but
also
anyway.
a nature spell, but for some reason you can cast that, but not Insect Swarm. They did fix this in TBC though, where Insect Swarm and Moonfire is part of your rotation.
Okay, good. Yeah, I know they changed some things around in BC that make sense, but obviously we're talking about Classic, so...
Yeah.
That's so funny though. Insect Swarm is not usable. I always thought, well, yeah, you get Insect Swarm for that hit chance. Nope, can't even use it in balance.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, in Moonkin form.
Yeah. I thought so as well when I started on Starius, like experimenting with a Moonkin. It's like, what? Can't use Insect Swarm?
What do you do with these last two then?
Well,
it's kind of whatever you want, it seems.
Yeah. None of these talents really matter. What I do, you know, I don't want to switch too much back and forth from my PvP specs and PvE specs, you know, to grind and to have enough money from the flasks and consumables I bring. I usually pop it in Nature's Grasp.
Oh, Nature's Grasp. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So I just can get a warrior off me, or
if you are in PvP, you're farming. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. And you can also pop like 1 point in Insect Swarm because it's really nice in a PvP setting. You know.
Yeah.
You should happen to meet someone. You know, you probably won't unless you're just. You know you'll kill him, and you want to show him that he got killed by a Moonkin. You're not hopping back into Moonkin form, you know. It costs a lot of mana, you know.
These last three are kind of wherever you want it. So yeah, I'd put Insect Swarm, Nature's Grasp, and just another one and improve Nature's Grasp. So okay.
So you're up at 50%. So
you have some flexibility at the end, but the main thing is to get these improvements to your rotation.
Yeah.
Got it. Well, cool.
And, yeah. So that's pretty much it, you know. When it comes to like playing, for instance, a balanced druid in PvP, then you're probably much better off. We can link to these talents that I'm talking about. It's like either a bit depending on your play style. You know, a 29 0 22, meaning that you'll go 4 points all the way into balance.
I'll show this here on the screen so the viewers can see it.
Which means you'll go all the way into Moon Fury, like 4 talents into it. It'll skip improved Starfire, since you won't be casting that much. Then you'll probably focus more on that in that setting, kicking off the Nature's Grace from Moonfires, and then shooting really quick Moonfires. And then being able to, with the 22 points in Restoration, being able to pull off Nature Swiftness heals on yourself or other players. And there's also this, there's another play style as well. I think at least for solo PvP, it might just be the strongest, depending a bit on your the class that you face. That would be the 29 11 11.
Oh yeah.
You go into Charge in Pharaoh. And you go down to Insect Swarm in Restoration.
Okay, so yeah, because I know Charge is huge in PvP.
Yeah, it's
because it
absolutely
can root
massive.
and interrupt spellcasting. Definitely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and they get stuck a little while as well, giving you time to maybe put up a like a entangle roots or whatever you have to do, or a heal even. You know, when you get a little distance, it's massive, and you can stop people from casting, being a really active healer of sorts. You know.
Yeah. Well, I want to ask then, in your experience though, how does a balanced druid do in PvP, or are you better off making that hybrid spec?
I think you're much better off making the hybrid spec, you know. But then again, like it's subjective, really, how you want to play. You know, I really loved. I used to stream a bit back in the day. You know, I had a fully like all the way into AQ decked out Moonkin, and I used to love to just like trying to get into positions in A B where I could free cast with flasks and every consumable available.
Bring that PvE damage, that raid damage to PvP.
Yeah, getting like on warriors with that stance that give them like 10 or 15% more damage, you'll be critting them 4.5k, you know, one shot.
I have seen videos of, even in Classic right now, of druids just getting a lucky Starfire off, and they're able to just burn people down. And a lot of people are probably like, wait, what just happened? That was a druid. They don't do what?
Yeah.
That's so funny. Well, what I have found is obviously I play a druid as well. I don't really go balance, but I found that one of the best PvP specs is like Heart of the Wild. But there's another, which is, if you're familiar with Heart of the Wild, it's where you go down the Feral tree enough for the Heart of the Wild ability, and then down the Restoration tree enough for the Nature's Grace. It's a Restoration spec, but it can do everything. Nature's Swiftness. I'm sorry, that's what I meant to say. But there is a Moonglow spec that I've always wondered how it would do in PvP, which is Moonglow is obviously, it's a restoration spec. It's where you go down restoration or balance enough for Moonglow, and then restoration you put the rest in, getting Nature's Swiftness and other things like Gift of Nature and kind of whatever. You can change it up after that. But I'm kind of curious how that would do in a PvP scenario, because you're doing a little bit of both, but you're missing charge, and charge is so big.
Yeah, I think that's one of the best ones where you can combine balance and healer, like, and I'm thinking especially in a VSG where you maybe want to get an overhealed warrior down, and you combine your damage, for instance, with a Warlock's Burst or a Mage's Burst, where you get the Nature's Grace for quick heals and the Nature's Swiftness, but you can still pull off a huge Starfire and Moonfire combo.
Oh yeah, because you could instant cast Starfire.
Yeah, from the instant cast, you know. And also, if you get a crit, for instance, on your Moonfire, then you'll get a quicker improved healing touch. And since you already have Nature's Swiftness, you'll be having the cast already half a second reduced, you know, on the healing touch.
Real quick, I'm reading right now. Nature's Swiftness, it says your next nature spell becomes an instant cast. Starfire is a arcane ability, isn't it?
Arcane, yeah.
Yeah, so that one wouldn't be included, but you could still do a Wrath, I guess.
Yeah, even with rats in my gear now, they crit around 1,000 when I'm in my PvP gear.
That's awesome.
So it's pretty good, and you can think it's like a 1.5 second cast, and you get the cast time gets reduced, so it's a lot of damage from a very fast spell.
It reminds me of there's a shaman combo that I didn't really have a solid name for it, but it was kind of just the three-prong hit. It's where you would cast, and you would use a Nature's Swiftness, where you would cast Lightning Bolt. No, I'm sorry. You'd cast a Chain Lightning. Hold on, a Lightning Bolt, instant cast a Chain Lightning, and then follow with an Earth Shock. Or I'm trying to remember exactly, but you get those three to hit, where you would I think it would be Lightning Bolt, Chain Lightning, and then follow up with an Earth Shock or something. And all three of those could actually hit at the same time.
Yeah, they will.
And it would just instantly drop someone. If even one of them crit, you do enough damage. So I wonder if balance has an option like that. So I'm trying to remember exactly how I did it, because I haven't played a shaman in a while. But that's the idea, is get all three of those to hit, and you can drop someone. I wonder if a druid has a similar ability, is do like a Starfire, instant cast a Wrath, and then follow it with a Moonfire. Quite a bit of damage.
But you kind of have this, you know, if you use like the Goblin bomb dispenser.
Oh yeah, that too.
And you, for instance, run with the barrow trinket, you know, with the calls for the peasants, and you have a goblin sapper, and you pop your Nature's Swiftness, and you blast all of that onto a target, and you, for instance, start invisible from cat form with a Ravage, and then you do an instant improved Rat, maybe followed by a Moonfire, you know, you kind of obliterate the target, you know, immediately.
Yeah.
But also even like a Starfire with a 2.5 second cast time, and even now in my gear now I can crit up to 2.5K. You know, most people may just get one-shotted from it. You know, so
Oh yeah. Out of bear form, that'd
but
be enough to
nothing
almost
like
one
the
shot me.
Shaman though.
Yeah, shamans are the more glass cannon, but no, that's fantastic. I like that. Well, I want to ask because we're getting close to the end of this, though. I did have one question: Is have you ever leveled a balanced druid? And I want to ask how they do in solo PVE content. So at World Quest, farming materials, and obviously you leveling. Because I know one combo that works really well is the Hurricane with what's it called, stone or bark skin.
Yeah,
Is pull a big group of mobs, and then you could like switch to Moonkin, bark skin, do bark skin, switch to Moonkin, and then just start raining down on everyone. And with Hurricane, and they wouldn't be able to interrupt you. You can usually clear mobs in that much time, and you get the armor of balance. So how have you found they've done that? A balanced druid has done in solo content.
Yeah, well, in terms of leveling, you know, I'm kind of like on both sides there. When you get a little bit of gear, for instance, even restos can do this. If you get like mix some of the tier 1 pieces and some spell damage gear, it's very easy to pull off just dotting mobs up with Moonfire and an Insect Swarm, and then top it off with maybe a Nade to keep them still, and a Hurricane. But I feel like in a scenario where you're leveling a Boomkin, and you're probably mixing in some arcane damage gear, I think you're better off just single target starfiring. And there was just like recently on the Druid Classic Discord in the balance section, some guys asking out there, and I think like the opinion that most were on is pretty much just starfiring, hoping for some crits, and you'll be like 5 or 6 mobs, and then you'll have to drink again. And it won't be much slower than what a cat can do, although they're like a perpetual motion machine, you know.
Yeah, they don't stop to drink. You just stop, heal, go back.
Yeah, it will be faster with a cat.
Do you usually?
I think it's really fucking cool to see people leveling as a Moonkin, and I think
I always clap. I cheer at them, even if they're alliance. Because I play Horde, I'll walk up to them and be like, "Yay, good for you!"
Yeah. You go, man.
Well, definitely.
I think that's better.
Oh, I was gonna ask. Sorry, I keep interrupting you.
Oh yeah.
I think we're getting like a voice delay, so my apologies.
Yeah, it's the same here. So we have a little bit of. We have the time issue, like the time zone issue, and I have a little bit of delay as well. So yeah, I think I've been interrupting you a little bit as well.
Yeah, I think I've done a little bit to you. Okay, well then two other questions I want to ask. But the first one is, what would you tell someone who's considering a balanced druid, like pros and cons? If someone was considering, like, hey, I think I want to play a druid, what would you tell them? Pros and what are the cons?
You know, like in the leveling aspect of it, I think a feral will be faster. I think that the guy playing feral will win, and also because of all the preconceived notions on balanced druids, even like when you're level 40 and starting to do instances and getting Moonkin form, I think it's much easier for you to get in a group as a tank, you know, since people are always needing tanks as a feral druid. But I think like in terms of enjoyment, maybe it's just subjective. I just really enjoy the Moonkin. The whole part of it, the getting the haste from your crits, mixing the gear, surprising people. In 5 months, you know, when we can pop a lot of Moonfires and just spam, just always like 3 or 4 mobs in the pulls. You can pop Moonfires and then you spam Starfires, and you're competing with mages actually, and warlocks, and even
surprise
druids even rogues. On the meter, it's just really nice, and I think people enjoy having a Moonkin, you know.
Yeah, and obviously they love you for the crit they get, because it makes their damage go up.
Yeah. And mages and warlocks will love you for the crits. But I think a question, something like that really comes down to flavor. If you got a little bit of extra time and you're ready for to swim a little bit upstream, then I think you can safely go for a Moonkin. You just have to do whatever you see fit. Yeah, do the Moonkin challenge. I myself, you know, I multi-boxed up to 60, so
oh, really?
Pretty much, yeah.
Cool.
I have a plan.
I've never done anything with that.
Yeah, I leveled up 2 druids to 60 because I want a double Moonkin DPS.
There you go. That's awesome. Well then, the last question I want to have then for you is, if someone wanted to find you, love or hate you, where would they do that? What are you on?
Huh? Repeat that
Oh,
question.
sorry. If someone wanted to find you, love or hate you, where would they do that? Like what server, what faction?
Well, if you want to have your ass kicked by
There we go.
Moonkin, yeah, you can come over to Sandalar Tribe server, and you can roll Horde, and you'll be seeing me around in Ashera and Felwood, endlessly grinding runes.
There you go.
And also, I'll be farming tons of elemental fires. That's the best grind for Moonkin when you're at 60.
Well, if someone
I'll be
wanted to
shooting-
find you... Oh, sorry, I keep interrupting. There's the sound thing again.
That's in game, yeah. And on the interwebs, I stream from Twitch every now and then. Probably be streaming a lot more now that finally gotten some good gear on the Moonkin and can really showcase what it's all about. You see me on twitch.tv/HESLIG. It's a Norwegian word,
No, cool.
meaning awful. But we could probably link it.
Yeah.
I also
It's right here, but down
YouTube
below.
channel that we could probably link as well. And yeah, or on my Guild Raw's Discord as well, if anyone has any question. But I think the best place to ask your questions about the Druid is probably the classic Druid Discord. And as you've had before on the Druid Discord, you know, Taladrill. There's a couple of Moonkins, one called Tailspinner and another one called Kefton, who's done most of the theory craft. Really nice guys to talk and ask questions about the Moonkin.
Okay, so the classic Druid Discord. I'll have that link down below in the description. Okay, well, fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, I play Hordes, but I'm not on the same server, so we won't ever run into each other. But you're Alliance, though, correct? That's what you said?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I think they will be mixing the servers, so maybe you'll get 5K Starfire one day.
Oh, there you go. If I'm ever out in the world and we just happen, they mix any servers, and I'm out in the world one day and I get hit for 5K, I'll be like, hey, it's Skinwalker. Anyway.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate your time. If anyone has any questions, they know where to find you. I found you on the Druid Discord, and that's where people can find just about anything. So I appreciate your time. Thanks, everybody, and I will see you guys next time.